When you finally leave a narcissist, something big starts to take place. It is something they did not expect, and something you might not fully get right away the instant you decide your calm feelings are worth more than their praise. The fake image that trapped you starts to break apart. Here's the real fact. Narcissists need these fake ideas to live. All parts of them, their sure ways, their nice talk, their power, are a carefully built disguise made to change how you look at them. But that false idea only works if you are near it, replying to it and trusting it. The second you move off, the fake image stops working. Consider this. Every show needs people to watch. When you go, the narcissist's act quickly stops. The clapping stops. The stage lights dim. They are left alone on a platform with nobody looking, and that feeling of being empty is too hard for them to take. What breaks down is not just the bond they had with you. It is their whole view of who they are. This is because, for them, their self is outside them. It is made from what other people think, what others offer, what others accept. They have no real core. They only live by seeing themselves in others. You are that mirror. You are the reflection that made them feel strong, important, admired. You gave them the emotional energy they could not make on their own. Your replies, whether it was love, anger, confusion, or even pain, gave them a feeling of being in charge. That is the twisted mind-related reason behind a narcissistic bond. It is not about love. It is about energy. They want attention the way an addict needs a dose. And when you cut off that supply, they must face a scary truth. They were never as strong as they pretended to be. At first, they will say it is not true. They will act calm, showing off as if they moved on easily. They will tell themselves stories about how you caused trouble, how they are better off, how they are happier without you now. But under that outward show is fear. Narcissists do not handle loss. They feel it as a great hurt. And because they cannot just sit with feeling weak, they quickly rush to build the fake image again through new partners, false confidence, or trying to bring you back. But here's the thing. None of it lasts because you were never just another person in their tale. You were the main story. You were the one who kept the fake idea alive. And when the illusion breaks, they start to quietly fall apart. You will not always see it because their breakdown is often hidden behind pride or just being busy. But it happens inside. They start to feel the emptiness that has always been there, the hollow part they have been trying to cover with control. When they no longer have someone to blame things on, they start to turn that blame inward. They feel small, helpless, unimportant. That is the real collapse. It is not showy. It changes how they see their whole life. It is the sudden understanding that the thing they thought made them better than others was never real. This is where your strength truly begins to show up, because leaving is not just a body action. It is a change deep in your mind. It is the time you stop living as just a part of someone else's pride and start taking back who you are. It is not easy. There is missing them, confusion, and sometimes guilt. You might even wonder if you did the right thing because the silence feels strange at first. But what is really happening is your body calming down. You are learning to live without emotional mess. You are learning to feel peaceful without guilt. And while you heal, the narcissist begins to weaken. They might try to pull you back with guilt, sweet talk, or even rage. But remember, every try is just another desperate effort to bring the fake idea back to life. They do not miss you. They miss the control they had when you were replying to them. That is the difference, and understanding that difference is freedom. Once you see the pattern clearly, you stop taking their actions personally. You stop asking, why was I not enough? And start seeing they were never able to truly connect. That move from blaming yourself to understanding yourself is the key moment. It is where you start to see how powerful silence can be. Silence is not weakness. It is clearness. It is the sound of good limits being set again. It is the space where yourself can finally breathe. And strangely, that silence is also what scares the narcissist the most. They cannot trick someone who does not reply. They cannot twist what no longer takes part. Your distance becomes their mirror now, and it shows their emptiness back to them with harsh truth. There is a mind term for this moment, narcissistic injury. It is when the weak self-image they have built starts to fall apart under the weight of truth, and truth once seen cannot be unseen. You become the truth. They cannot forget. You stand for freedom. They cannot reach real feeling. They cannot copy peace. They cannot ruin it. Every time you choose not to reply, not to take part, not to explain, you make that hurt deeper. Not to be mean, but because your healing shows what they refuse to face. In that silence, they are forced to deal with the one thing they have been running from their whole life, themselves. The emptiness, the uncertainty, the shame, they all surface. That is the silent collapse. It is not loud or showy. It is slow, heavy, and sure to happen. It is what happens when someone who spent their life pretending to be whole finally runs out of people to pretend for. And while they go down, you rise up. You start to rebuild not just your life, but your inner world. You find again who you were before the trickery, before the gaslighting, before the self-doubt. You learn that peace is not found in someone else's approval. It is built in your own acceptance. That is the real win. Because the best way to get back at someone who tried to control your world is to make a life so calm, so steady that they can no longer touch it. When you leave a narcissist, you are not just escaping a bad relationship. You are stepping out of a mind trap. You are breaking the cycle of lies. You are saying, I choose what is real over fantasy. I choose growing over playing games. I choose me. And that choice, simple as it sounds, is the most powerful act of self-freedom there is. So if you are sitting in that silence right now, wondering whether they even notice you are gone, the answer is yes. They feel it strongly because your absence shows their truth. The fake idea cannot live without your energy. The show cannot go on without your attention. You did not just leave a relationship. You ended their performance. And that right there is the start of their silent collapse. And your wake up, one of the most confusing parts of leaving a narcissist, is what happens to their image after you are gone. From the outside, it might look like they are doing great. You might see them posting about their new life, suddenly happy, surrounded by people who seem to love them. It can be annoying because you remember the mess, the manipulation, the emotional fighting, and now it looks like they are fine. What you are really seeing is not healing. It is a show. Narcissists are experts at appearances. Their whole world is about managing how they look. And when you leave, that image starts to break in ways that are often hidden. At first, everything about a narcissist life is about keeping control over what people see, over the story, over the way others think of them. They spend their whole lives building a version of themselves that looks strong, confident, charming, successful. They carefully choose the story they tell the world because that story is their shield. It is how they protect themselves from the shame they carry deep inside. But that shield only works as long as people believe it. And the person who is the biggest threat to that fake idea is the one who is seen behind the mask. When you leave, you become the biggest danger to the story they have built. Because you know the truth, you have seen the faults. You know the rage that hides behind the charm, the weakness under the pride, the trickery under the concern. That is why you leaving is not just a loss, it is exposure. It is the one thing a narcissist fears most. They cannot let the world see what is real. So they rush to change the story before you even have a chance to speak. You will see it happen like clockwork. They will suddenly become the victim. They will tell others that you were unsteady, unthankful, even mean. They will use pity as a weapon because it keeps their image safe. They will say, I tried everything. I gave so much. I just could not make them happy. They will hide their trickery as self-awareness, turning your pain into their public relations effort. It is a mind-related way to protect themselves called impression management. It is the urgent need to control how others see them so they never have to face who they really are. But here is what they do not know. Over time, that image starts to fall apart. It does not happen quickly, but it happens quietly, always. And surely because truth has a way of coming out when someone's self is built on lies, it is only a matter of time before the uneven parts start to show. You might not see it, but behind the scenes, people begin to notice things that do not make sense. Their stories do not match. Their charm starts to feel fake. Their perfect life begins to look rehearsed. And over time, the same things that once drew people in start to push people away. That is the strange outcome of the narcissist's plan. In their attempt to protect their image, they ruin it because the harder they try to look flawless, the more empty they become. Real feeling cannot be faked forever. And what used to look like confidence now looks like desperation. What used to seem like success now feels like a performance. People start to sense that something is wrong. They might not know what it is, but they feel it. Human instinct is strong. That it knows truth even when the mind tries to deny it. You, on the other hand, start to live differently. You are no longer caught in their story. You are not trying to prove anything, not searching for approval, not explaining your side of the tale. That is what truly threatens them, because your peace, your quiet certainty, your ability to move on without defending yourself, these things break down their fake idea faster than any fight ever could. The narcissist relies on reaction. When you stop giving them that, the focus dims, their voice loses its power, their story starts to sound like a lie because you are no longer taking part in it. And here is where the real collapse begins. Not outside, but inside. When their image stops working, when people stop reacting, when the story loses strength, they start to feel the void they have been running from. The narcissist's perfect image is a front built on emotional support. Without constant support, it starts to crumble under its own weight. They start to panic. They need new approval, new things to distract them, new people to believe the story. They will chase it forever, but no matter how far they go, the emptiness follows them. Because what is breaking down is not their good name. It is who they are. You see, image is the narcissist's false self. It is the role they created to avoid the pain of who they really are. But when that false self is no longer reflected back to them, when you stop showing it, when others start doubting it, it is like a mind explosion. They cannot control their feelings because the fake idea that held them together is gone. That is why after you leave, many narcissists lose control. Some turn to anger, some to obsession, others to new relationships that look too much like the last one. It is all part of the same urgent attempt to rebuild the mask, but masks are weak things. They cannot survive truth, and your truth, the calm, steady, real way you rebuild, becomes the quiet power that breaks down everything they have made. You do not even have to say anything. The difference between your real feeling and their performance says it all. Your peace shows their chaos. Your honesty shows their trickery. Your growth shows they're staying in the same place. That is the power of leaving and staying gone. There is something almost beautiful about it. The narcissist spends their life focused on control, on what people think, on building the perfect story, and yet it is the one thing they cannot keep up without you, because the truth does not need approval. It just needs time. And over time, everything that is real rises and everything that is fake falls apart. That is not fate. That is the way the mind works. That is the natural result of living a false life. So if you ever find yourself wondering whether they are still doing well without you, remember this. They might still be performing, but the mask is slipping slowly, quietly, surely. And while they are busy keeping up a lie, you are living something real. You are rebuilding from the inside out, becoming whole, becoming steady, becoming free. That is the difference between image and substance. They chase how things look. You build deepness. They trick people's view. You live truth. And that is why, even in silence, you win. Because the truth does not need people to watch. It only needs your belief in it. And when you choose to live in truth, every fake idea around you eventually breaks down. What most people do not understand about how narcissists work is that they are built on a very specific kind of energy trait. It is not about love or connection or working together. It is about control. The narcissist needs you emotionally so they can feel alive. Every fight, every reply, every tear you cry, every time you explain yourself or fight for your worth, those moments are like air to them. They gain strength from that strong feeling because it gives them a sense of power and importance they cannot create on their own. When you leave, when you stop talking and stop feeding that cycle, they go into a type of emotional withdrawal that affects both their mind and body. It is the collapse of their inner system. Think about it this way. A narcissist does not have an inner way to calm their feelings. Most people can calm themselves when they are stressed or worried. We can think, change, say sorry, or ask for healthy help, but the narcissist cannot do that. Their whole feeling of balance comes from outside approval. People telling them they are amazing, successful, desired, better than others. That outside feedback is how they handle their feelings. So when that source is suddenly gone, when you are gone, they start to come apart. At first, it looks like rage. You have likely seen it before. The angry messages, the sudden accusations, the tries to make you feel guilty, or the you will regret this kind of outbursts. That is not power. That is fear. It is the urgent reply of someone who is losing their supply. They are not mad because they love you. They are mad because they have lost control. And control is their drug. It is what keeps their weak sense of self safe. But once the first anger fades, something quieter and darker settles in. Withdrawal, just like an addict without their fix. The narcissist starts to feel the crash. Their mind races. Their feelings swing from grand ideas to sadness. They feel unseen, unimportant, helpless. And because they do not have the emotional tools to deal with those feelings, they start looking for another way to escape them. That is why so many narcissists move on so fast to a new partner. It is not love, it is not connection, it is replacement. They are trying to fill the empty space you left with someone else who can give the same emotional spark. But here is what they cannot copy. You, not because you are irreplaceable in a love sense, but because the mind connection you had with them was unique. You were the person who put up with, explained, cared, and took in the blame. You gave them the right mix of challenge and letting them lead, truth and tolerance that kept their world turning. No new person can quickly make that again, no matter how hard the narcissist tries. So even while they seem to move on, they are troubled by what they have lost. The control, the known path, the emotional hold they had on you. Over time, this emotional withdrawal gets deeper into something even more damaging. Because the narcissist does not just lose their supply, they lose their mirror. You were the reflection that gave them self-image. Without that reflection, they are forced to face a version of themselves they have been avoiding their whole lives, the empty one. That is where the real pain starts. The silence becomes too hard to bear because it reminds them that beneath the performance there is nothing steady, nothing rooted, nothing whole. They might busy themselves with noise, social media, dating, work, attention, but none of it satisfies. The good feeling fades faster each time. Meanwhile, you are going through something totally different. You are not going through withdrawal in the same way, but you are cleaning up emotionally too. You are breaking the habit of reacting, explaining, thinking too much. You are learning to live without the constant emotional mess that had become your normal. It is strange at first because peace can feel new when you have lived fighting to survive for so long, but with every quiet moment, your body starts to heal. You start to see that what felt like love was really needing them. What felt like passion was control, and what felt like connection was trickery. This difference between your healing and their withdrawal is huge. It is why you might sense them still trying to reach you even months or years later. The random messages, the small tries to pop up again. They are testing to see if you will still reply. It is not about making up. It is about relief. They want to know if they still matter enough to make you react. Because your reaction would mean their power is not gone. That is why your silence is so strong. It is not cruel. It is clear sight. Every time you choose not to talk, you are making a new reality stronger for you and for them. For you, it is a statement of self-respect. For them, it is facing their own emptiness. In terms of the mind, this moment is where roles change. You were once the one feeling helpless, doubting your worth, trying to make sense of their mess. Now, it is the narcissist who is desperate, looking for meaning, trying to get back what they have lost. But here's the strange part. The more they chase outside approval, the further they move from the healing they truly need, because healing for them would need looking inside, humbleness, and care for others, the very things their ego will not allow. That is why most narcissists never actually get better. They just repeat things. They repeat the same cycle with new people, new places, new stories. The addiction continues, but the satisfaction never returns. And you grow, you learn to take strength from within. You start to see that your care, your depth, your ability to love, those were not weaknesses. They were strengths wrongly used by the wrong person. The same energy that kept a toxic bond going now becomes the energy that rebuilds your life. You find peace in places that used to feel empty. You find happiness in simple things, in being real, in the quiet moments that no longer need approval from anyone else. The narcissist's withdrawal and your wake-up happen side by side, but they move in opposite ways. One is going down into a deeper lie while the other is rising into truth. That is the spiritual balance of this process. What once felt like destruction is actually change. The silence that scared you at first becomes special. It is where you find your inner voice, your strength, your sense of self again. And that is what finally breaks the cycle. Not anger, not getting back at them, but the quiet strength of emotional freedom. Because when you no longer need their attention to feel alive, the whole system that kept them going breaks down. You take back every piece of energy they once fed on. You take back your power by simply choosing peace over mess, truth over lies, and self-respect over fear. That is the moment the balance shifts forever. The narcissist's withdrawal is the proof of their dependence. Your healing is the proof of your freedom, and the greatest act of power you can ever take is to let their silence echo while you keep walking toward freedom. There comes a time after all the mess, all the confusion, and all the emotional coming apart, when you finally begin to understand something big. The narcissist's real punishment is not what you say or do to them. It is what happens when you stop playing the game, when you stop defending yourself, when you stop reacting, when you stop being a character in the drama they have made. Because for a narcissist, peace is not just strange. It is too hard to bear. Your peace becomes the mirror that shows everything they will never be able to find inside themselves. You see, narcissists gain strength from emotional trouble. They need the noise, the arguments, the back and forth, because that chaos gives them importance. In the storm, they feel powerful. When you are crying, explaining, or proving your worth, you are still linked to them. You are still moving around their ego. And as long as they can get a rise out of you, they know they still matter. But when you choose calm, when you choose silence, that is when the real change happens. That is when they lose their grip, because peace is not something they can trick. Peace is the one thing they cannot copy. What makes peace so strong is that it works on a completely different level than control. The narcissist's whole life depends on emotional reply. Yours, theirs, everyone's. Their sense of self is built around being the center of focus, even if that focus comes from pain. When you refuse to talk, you are not just leaving, you are changing the nature of the relationship. You are stepping out of the emotional system that gave them air. And in that silence, something begins to happen. They start to feel small, helpless, unimportant. You might not see it because they will never admit it, but the silence bothers them. Narcissists feel peace as rejection. They feel your calm as disrespect, because in their world, if you are not reacting, you must not care. And not caring is the one thing they cannot handle. Not caring feels like complete destruction to a narcissist. It tells them that they no longer control your emotional world, and that knowledge cuts deeper than any insult or fight ever could. They will try everything to break that peace. They will test it. They will send messages that sound like apologies but are really traps. They will provoke you with half-truths, with rumors, with sudden visits meant to remind you they still exist. Every try is a way to get control back. But once you understand the mind reason behind it, you see it for what it is. Not love, not making up, but desperation. The narcissist does not want closure. They want reaction. They want your peace to fall apart, because that would mean the fake idea of their power is still hold. This is where your strength is tested. Because keeping peace is not being weak. It is an act of power. It is saying, I will no longer be open to chaos. It is choosing to live with purpose instead of just reacting. And that is something most narcissists cannot understand. To them, silence looks weak. But in reality, silence is control. It is emotional smarts. It is knowing that not every battle is worth fighting, especially the ones meant to keep you stuck in someone else's problem. The deeper truth here is that peace is a mirror. It shows everything. When you start living from a place of calm self-trust, you become a living difference to the narcissist's inner mess. Your stillness shows their lack of balance. Your emotional maturity highlights their not being grown up. Your real self takes off their mask. You do not even have to say a word. Your energy speaks louder than anything they could post, perform, or pretend, and that is the beauty of it. You do not have to get back at them. You do not have to prove your point. Life has a way of showing truth without your help. The narcissist's collapse is not always clear to you, but it happens. The people they try to trick start noticing the things that do not match. The new relationships they chase begin to break under the same patterns. The emptiness they have been running from catches up to them one quiet night at a time. And while they lose control, you rise, not in anger, not in pride, but in peace. Your peace becomes the strongest statement you will ever make, because peace does not just heal you. It shows everything that is not aligned with truth. It makes a limit that cannot be crossed. It communicates without words. that you have taken back your power. You no longer need their approval, their apology, or their notice. You are no longer living in reaction to them. You are living in line with yourself. That is the turning point. That is when you stop asking, will they ever get what they deserve? And start realizing they already have. Because the narcissist punishment is internal. It is the emptiness that grows when their tricks stop working. It is the loneliness that sets in when their charm wears thin. It is the quiet understanding that no matter how much attention they chase, it never fills the void. They are troubled by the peace they cannot create, and the peace you now embody, in a thinking way. That is where the story moves past revenge. This is not about getting even. It is about growing. It is about understanding that real strength does not come from fighting back. It comes from no longer needing to fight at all. The energy you once spent explaining yourself is now energy you use to build yourself. The time you once gave to someone who drained you is now time you give to what helps you. You are not just healing, you are changing what power means. And that is something the narcissist will never truly understand, because their idea of power is controlling others. Yours is controlling yourself. Theirs depends on control. Yours depends on freedom. They chase approval. You create peace. And in that difference lies the quiet truth. They cannot destroy what no longer plays their game. So when you feel tempted to break the silence, to prove a point, to show them how far you have come, remember you do not need to. Your peace already speaks volumes. Your stillness already shows the truth. The collapse you are waiting to see is already happening, even if you cannot see it, because peace is not just a feeling state. It is a mirror that shows who is truly strong and who is not. The narcissist once did well on your mess, but now you do well on their absence. You have changed what was once their power source into your safe place. You have changed silence into strength, calm into clarity, and pain into purpose. So hold that peace. Guard it. Let it become the quiet revolution that changes how you live and how you love, because nothing breaks control like calm, and nothing scares a narcissist more than the sound of someone who has finally found peace inside themselves. Your peace is their punishment. Your healing is their silence, and your freedom